John Owens, a dedicated hunter who frequently ventured into the wilderness, found himself facing an unexpected twist during a chilly November day in Wisconsin. Alongside his friends, he was on his routine expedition to inspect his traps when a startling discovery unfolded. As they examined the coyote traps, their attention was abruptly seized by an extraordinary sight. Deep within the heart of the woods, ensnared in one of John's traps, loomed a formidable creature. The situation was far from ideal. In fact, it posed a considerable threat to John and his companions. Dealing with an injured animal is always risky, but this case was particularly perilous. The trapped creature was no mere coyote. It possessed the potential to inflict severe harm with its powerful jaws if it were to latch onto a human limb. John found himself in a life-or-death predicament, a stark contrast to the typical day in the life of a hunter. His astonishment was palpable as he peered into the coyote trap, only to discover the unexpected, a massive timber wolf ensnared within. The wolf's front paw was ensnared, and it was desperately struggling to break free, clearly in agonizing pain. John recognized the gravity of the situation. It was not merely a matter of liberating the wolf, it was about doing so without falling victim to the creature's potentially lethal fury. What if the wolf decided to retaliate by seizing his arm? There was no guarantee that the injured wolf wouldn't be in an aggressive mood. John was confronted with an incredibly perilous scenario, one that demanded a prudent decision. His options were limited. On one hand, he couldn't conscionably leave the wolf to grapple with the trap on its own, risking death from exposure or self-mutilation. On the other hand, releasing the massive creature without safeguards could lead to a violent confrontation. Fortunately, the traps were designed to detain smaller animals without causing them harm. They functioned like handcuffs, securely gripping the animal's paw until human intervention was provided. While the trap might not cause permanent damage to a creature like a coyote or a wolf, it was evident that the wolf was distressed. Its howling was not due to physical pain, but rather a desperate plea for freedom. While wolves, particularly solitary ones, rarely posed a threat to humans in the wild, a trapped and threatened animal could react unpredictably and aggressively. John understood that rescuing the wild timber wolf would require caution and consideration of the creature's state of mind. Would the animal respond to his efforts with gratitude or aggression? This crucial factor would weigh heavily on John's decision-making process. It was worth noting that the timber wolf was federally listed as an endangered species, adding another layer of significance to the situation. In Wisconsin, it is illegal to kill this animal, which meant John had no option to shoot it, as doing so would result in jail time and a substantial fine if caught. Consequently, John's choices were severely limited, leaving him with only one viable course of action: releasing the trapped timber wolf, a prospect fraught with danger. John couldn't help but feel a growing anxiety. He questioned his certainty that it was indeed a timber wolf. The resemblance between wolves and coyotes was striking, making it challenging to differentiate them from a distance. Even seasoned hunters with John began to doubt the animal's identity, sparking a debate on how to ascertain its true nature. Ultimately, John's conviction that it was a genuine timber wolf prevailed, based on its distinctive markings and size. Timber wolves, also known as gray wolves, are found throughout North America and Eurasia. They are substantial creatures, weighing up to 100 pounds at their peak, predominantly gray with white and black markings. Under optimal conditions, they can live up to 16 years, exhibiting social behavior and high intelligence. Typically, wolves do not attack humans unless provoked or rabid, and encounters are rare. Despite John's assurance that it wasn't a coyote, the presence of a full-grown timber wolf in the trap heightened the perilous situation. John was about to put his life on the line to release the trapped animal. As John prepared to free the timber wolf, his heart raced. It was a nerve-wracking moment, but it had to be done to prevent the animal from suffering. John, his friend, and his father, who had joined the hunt, were all in agreement that the wolf had to be set free. They deliberated extensively on the safest approach, settling on a simple solution: a large piece of plywood and a gun, both on standby in case things went awry. While John's father retrieved the supplies from the truck, the other two men stayed with the wolf, attempting to calm it down. Exhausted from its escape attempts, the wolf panted heavily. John carefully examined the situation, recognizing the slim margin for error. Their plan was to release the wolf in one smooth motion. John positioned the plywood as a shield, prepared for a potential wolf attack. His friend recorded the entire process, while his father had the gun at the ready just in case. They were well prepared for the dangerous task ahead. As John inched closer to the wolf, his father reassured him that the rifle was ready as a last resort. It was the only comfort he could have in case things went wrong. The moment had arrived, and John was as prepared as he could be. He exchanged a glance with his encouraging friend, who could offer nothing more than moral support. With bated breath, John approached the timber wolf, plywood in hand, ready to act. He positioned the plywood over the wolf's paw using a strategically placed notch. The plan was in motion, and John cautiously lowered the wood over the wolf's paw. The notch fit perfectly, but the wolf reacted aggressively, biting and scratching the plywood. It was evident that the animal was frightened and ready to defend itself, but would it recognize John's intentions to help? While John worked on the trap, the wolf remained safely separated by the plywood sheet. However, this protection was temporary. Once the trap was released, there would be no stopping the wolf if it decided to attack. Timber wolves, when hungry, could be among the dangerous animals in the Wisconsin woods, difficult to trap and even more challenging to release. The general rule was to avoid provoking them, as they could be lethal. Finally, the moment came for John to release the wolf. With the plywood acting as a barrier between them, he was temporarily safe. However, as the wood separated them, the wolf reacted violently, displaying its fear by biting and scratching. John had one hand free as he held up the plywood, allowing him to work carefully to release the wolf's paw. It was a challenging task, but he eventually succeeded. In an instant, the wolf spun around and bolted, running free. John, his father, and his friend were unharmed, and the wolf was no longer trapped. Relieved and elated, they congratulated each other on a job well done. They reviewed the video footage taken by John's friend and were astonished to see the wolf's unexpected reaction when it was released. In the video, as the wolf headed into the woods, it briefly looked back at John, as if expressing gratitude for saving its life. John hadn't witnessed this moment in real time, but the video confirmed that he had made the right choice, allowing the wolf to run off and live freely.